I had a man that got a sting operation put on by the RCMP out in Alberta. He had contacted me and his dear friend, he runs a soup kitchen there, helping the needy or whatever. And there was a woman that they met over the last few years or whatever. She, I think, was a little bit on the streets, and she may have been, drug dependent on crack or something at times. But anyway, she calls the man up and she says, "Hey, can you come and meet me down at the park? I want to show you something." So he's a kind man. He said, "Sure, I'll come down." So he goes down the park to meet her. As soon as he gets there, she's got a bag of guns in the park. She opens up this bag and he's like, "Well, what's that?" She says, "That's some guns." She says, "I thought you might want one." He says, "No, I don't want any." So he says, "I don't want anything to do with it." So he turned around to walk away, and all of a sudden he gets jumped by the RCMP. It was a hit job on him, right? So he gets locked up for 2 weeks. He goes and he hires a lawyer, pays him $9,000. Then he contacts me about not quite 4 weeks before he's supposed to be in court for trial. And they were looking at putting him away for 5 years into jail. First thing you always do is you fire the lawyer. A lawyer does not represent you. It's a trick word. You got to split the R and the E to present. So it's he represents you. And what does he represent you as? Well, he represents you as that fiction that was created when you're born, that legal person. That's why you always see in their legal filings, the names are always in all capital letters at the very top of who the parties are that are involved. Anytime you see your name in capital letters, that's not you. That's a corporation that was created in your name, unbeknownst to you. And that's that trespass that happens in birth. So again, we did the same three process with this gentleman, fired the lawyer. We went right up to the top man that's acting as Attorney General. Remember, Job 32:21, you don't accept any titles of anybody. You don't accept person. So you call him out. He's just a man acting for a service corporation. So we laid into him. We said, "Where do you have the jurisdiction to be doing this?" And those same questions were required. Produce the contract that this man was in breach of, or produce the verified claim that he trespassed, causing wrong or harm. Failure to do that, it always leaves those three questions. Someone must believe on property. 3 notices went into the court. The tax agreement along with it. Then we also included a fee schedule. Why? Because when you make that special appearance that day, everyone there is being paid, right? It's theft that's going on, but everyone's being paid for their time. No man or woman has the right to be compelled to perform, that means appear, without being fairly and justly compensated. That's law. So you put it in ahead of time. You always get all your notices and communications into the people 3 notices ahead of time, and then that tacit agreement. The tacit agreement basically states, hey, this is what the lawyers use all the time. You've acquiesced. We've sent 3 notices to you. You've not produced the evidence required to jurisdiction. Therefore, we have a tacit agreement in place with you, and we're going to use this in court against you. So that's a big hammer. So you've got the 3 notices and the tacit agreement. And then you write a special letter the day, a couple of days before that's your notice of appearance, because you're making a special appearance in that courtroom. And that's when you can drill down on that communication. You're the man or the woman. You're not the legal fiction. And I always use Exhibit 2 as I am not. And then I show a scan of the birth certificate of that man or woman, because that's what their court documentation is all referring to as this legal fiction. And so you put that into the courtroom along with your fee schedule, and that basically tells me if I got to appear and I got to address this fraud and it's not discharged or dismissed, then you will have contracted with me. It's no different than if you're on a construction site, how I can circle it back to my years in that. If you're on a construction site and they post signs up there trespassing, $25,000, $100,000, $50,000, whatever it is, if you ignore those signs of trespass and you go over that fence and you go into that property, there is not a court in this world that is not going to award that owner of that property your fee, their fine for you trespassing. Well, it's no different if you put those notices to them. You're giving them a notice that you've trespassed 3 times. Then you hit them with the tacit agreement. And if they come into that courtroom and they try and move that court against you and their corruption and their fraud, it's all based on constructive fraud, then they are going to be liable. And I put a fee down of $1 million. That's a very good deterrent for them, that they're all going to be held accountable on the private side. You don't sue the government of Alberta. You don't sue, the city of Burlington or a municipality. You don't sue a corporation. You go after that man or woman in their private capacity, and you put that in writing to everybody. So what happened? The man went to court. I prepared him, because here comes that big word again, who. The judge got all the paperwork ahead of time, the man acting wearing the black robe, and immediately says, as soon as he started asking who the man was, and I prepared him, I says, if they ask you, who are you? Don't get into this. I'm not the legal fiction, blah, blah, blah. Just say, I'm the man that is here surrounding a trespass against me, and these are the papers that you also have before you here today that I was given, claiming that a debt be due, true or past due. So he did that fine, and then when he started to try and do something else, the judge started to cut him off, saying, I'm not going to have any of this. You've looked at the stuff that you've put into the courtroom here. I'm not going to have any of this nonsense. And as soon as he said that, I told him, I said, you hit him with who's moving this court. And as soon as he hit him with who's moving this court, the guy went dead silent, wearing the black robe, the little maggot. And he fluffled around a bit at the counter. He says, I'm going to have to go back and review this. And he left. What he did, he actually abandoned ship. right? As everyone should know, that's what's going on because it's Admiralty law. That's what the word law stands for. It's not just a pretty word. It stands for the three jurisdictions of law: land, air, and water. The bar, the legal world, operates on the sea. It's the commerce, right? Contract law. That's what lawyers are there for, to handle contracts. Land, common law, that's a superior court to the inferior courts that these legal proceedings are doing. So once that man that was wearing the black robe got hit with who's moving this court, they don't like that word because you have a right to face your accuser before any verdict is rendered. And again, we already put into the court on the public record through these 3 notices and tacit agreements. Once you file that into their court case, it's on the public record. They better damn well come forward with that obligation, that contract that you're in breach over. There better be a verified claim or somebody's going to be in a lot of trouble here. That's how simple it is. So he put that in and he left the room. He could have just ended it right there saying he's abandoned ship, took over the court, but then the man comes back about 10 minutes later after he's looking at the paperwork again. He's trying to find a way out to protect his ass. That's basically what he was doing. He came back in, he says, I'm discharging all this, get out of here. And he threw it all out. So that happened this year. And, like I said, it's an ongoing battle, but we need hundreds of thousands of people to be awake with these simple truths that I've brought forward and understand that there's genocide that's occurring before we cut onto this break, so that everyone can understand the solution is at that courthouse with the military, with law enforcement, those that are awake, and move those claims, not sissy complaints, against people. I would take Justin Trudeau, Doug Ford, they're the main principals in Canada here, and Theresa Tam surrounding the COVID lie. I can take them down with those 4 questions. You hit them with who claimed my property, who's got a contract on the private side on property, or who's got a contract here with the service corporation you're acting through that I'm property. They don't have that, and that's what the world needs to see, that it'll show everyone that nothing that they put pen to paper, their codes, their rules, their acts, their statutes, their bylaws, their whatever their mandates, whatever they're putting words to paper. Remember, we circle it back? No words on a piece of paper control you unless you're property of a man or woman there's a contract that's involved, and that doesn't exist. And then the 4th question is produce the evidence that COVID SARS-2 was isolated, purified. And when they don't do that, then the entire world will know the lie has been verified, and then we can get the mass arrest happening, and let's hold these people accountable.